Now I have been looking into this action camera space for quite a while now. Even though I'm not a sportsy, outdoorsy person, having a tiny camera which can do high quality 4K videos in your pocket can prove useful sometimes. And no, I don't mean that in a creepy way. There are of course a wide variety of options out there, starting from the GoPros all the way to the Sony action cameras, and DJI of course came up with their new Osmo Action, which is again pretty damn good. It has some drawbacks, but for that price you're getting some stellar performance. But of course once you pay that price you will definitely get a good camera. But what about all these budget options in the market? Like the Amazon marketplace is filled with all these third-party Chinese action camera makers who are claiming that these cameras can do 4K and can compete with the big boys like GoPro and DJI. But turns out they actually are pretty damn good. This one in particular is the Akaso Brave 4. It's a 4K action camera which I did not have any high hopes for, but managed to surprise me nevertheless. So in this video let's try to look at why the Akaso Brave 4 is one of the best options out there for beginners who are looking for affordable action cameras which is not a total piece of junk. So here we go. Right off the bat, Akaso did not impress me with their build quality. The Brave 4 is entirely made of plastic. Just like many other knockoffs out there, like I have been a victim of a knockoff action camera. Like I bought an action camera from, I don't even remember which brand. They promised that it would do 1080p at 60 fps, which was good enough for me back then, but it could not even do 720p properly. Like the sensor was pretty crap, and even though the resolution of the video was 720p, the video was not 720p. I think you know what I'm talking about. But the Akaso Brave 4 is actually legit. It really does 4K at 24 fps and 1080p at 60 fps. And of course it has a bunch of other modes like time-lapse and slow-mo and everything. We'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, talking about the build quality, this thing is not very solidly built. I highly recommend that you always carry this waterproof case with you, not because you will be dunking this in water or anything, but it does an overall good job of keeping your camera safe. Not that this is a very expensive camera or anything, but it's better to have some kind of safety on this fragile device. So right out of the gate I was disappointed with one thing other than the build quality, and that is the storage situation. Like many action cameras out there, this thing takes an SD card. Now that's understandable. I know that action cameras do require an external SD card, but some amount of built-in storage would have been appreciated. I took this out of the box and it needed an SD card. I did not have an SD card, so I had to go out and search and buy an overpriced SD card. The store owner totally ripped me off, but I needed an SD card on a very short notice, and online was not an option then. You know me, I'm hopeless. Once I get my hands on a piece of tech, I can't wait to get it running, so I'm really impatient. But I'm glad I did buy a 16GB SD cards, because this thing really does 4K videos, and you may know that 4K videos do take a lot of storage. Going around the body of this device, I was surprised to find two ports here. One is a micro USB port and one is a mini HDMI port. This thing is actually capable of outputting to a USB or HDMI compatible device, which is pretty great. You can also charge this camera by plugging in a micro USB cable onto your power bank, but you cannot transfer files from this directly to your PC. I tried, it just would not show up as even a normal drive. You have to take out the SD card, put it in an adapter, and then you can transfer files to your phone or to your laptop. But unlike other conventional action cameras out there, this thing has a display on the front. It's not the display like you've seen on the DJI Osmo Action. Like it does not show you the video footage on the front, but it does show you some information like how long the video has been recording, whether the Wi-Fi is on or not, what's the battery percentage, etc. I mean, yeah, it's not super useful, but I guess it's good to have it on board. At least you know that how long you have been recording it. As soon as I saw the viewfinder and I saw the video quality in this tiny screen, I was actually impressed. Even in the indoor situation where the lighting is pretty bad and my main camera struggles in these situations, this thing was able to hold on to its own. Sure, there were noise levels, and you have seen this footage before in my previous video, the Realme X. If you haven't seen that video, you can check out the iCards. But noise is definitely present. However, the video is not completely unusable. This thing produces stellar quality footage with decent color reproduction, and I'm actually impressed. Although the image quality out of this is pretty good, I am not a fan of the buttons and the UI navigation. This thing does not have a touchscreen, which may not surprise most of you. The UI has not been designed with a lot of thought in mind. It just has a single mode button to switch between modes, which also acts as the power button. It's fine. There's one selection button, which is normal, and there are only two up and down navigation buttons. It sounds like it would be okay, but the implementation of the UI is done in a pretty half-assed way. it really gets frustrating after a while. Here, I'll turn it on. Oh shit, batteries. Battery door would have been better off attached to this, but it comes off separately, so don't lose it. A single press of the mode switches on the Akaso Brave 4. It makes that weird noise. One tap of the mode button takes you into the photo mode from the video mode, which is fine. Another tap takes you into the gallery. One more tap takes you into the gallery for the photos. Another tap gets you into the settings, and this mode button keeps switching between these different options. So if you want to just get to the settings and change your maybe video resolution, you have to go through all these in a sequence. There is no direct shortcut to go to the settings button. So yeah, the menu navigation system isn't that great. So I wish Akaso would change that. Since this does not have any ways of getting over-the-air updates, this product is pretty much done for. Hopefully in the future versions of the Akaso Brave series, they'll have a better way of interacting with the UI, because this is just, it's not intuitive at all. The video quality is good overall. I mean, this is an action camera. You will use it primarily for video. You can take 4K 24fps video, 1080p 60fps or 1080p 30fps. And there's also a couple of modes in 720p as well, including 720p at 240fps slow-mo, which is again pretty good. But I noticed that there is some kind of sharpening going on at 720p. I don't know if that's the issue with the sensor or maybe something that's happening inside the camera in post-processing, but the slow-mo video, it's a bit too sharp and jittery to actually qualify as slow-mo. So not super happy with that, and I would not advise you to use this for slow-mos. What I absolutely would recommend that you use in this is the time-lapse mode. It's pretty great. You can set between 1 second all the way to 10 seconds of shutter, meaning that once every that many seconds it will take one picture of the scenery around it. So depending on how long you keep it, you will get a dramatic time-lapse video. You know what I'm talking about. Being an action camera, this thing has a 170-degree field of view, so even if I hold it just at my 1 foot length from my face, my entire face and the surrounding area will be covered, and I don't have to double check in the screen, because that's the beauty of an action camera. No matter where you hold it, you can be confident that you and anything behind you will easily be covered in the scene. Now, of course, many people will prefer the smoothness and the buttery like smooth effect of the 1080p 60fps video, but I am a clarity nerd. Like, I want the sharpest and the best image possible out of my cameras. So I pretty much always set this at 4K 24fps. Strangely, there is no 4K 30fps option, even though I'm not looking for a 4K 60fps option in this price bracket. 30fps would have been good, because this video is 30fps and this video is 24fps. So you may have noticed that when I include the video clips in this, so the video doesn't look as good because the lower frame rates are getting averaged out to a higher frame rate when I'm exporting this video. Sorry about that. There is nothing much I can do to like average out the frame rates and give you an idea of how it is, but trust me, it's really good. It handles exposure levels very well. White balance is pretty much on spot. Even focus is pretty damn good when it comes to landscape scenes. However, this being an action camera, there is no autofocus mode, so if you are planning to focus on something which is nearby, forget about it. It will not be in focus. It has to be a couple of feet away for it to be in sharp focus, and that's how an action camera is supposed to work. If you are buying an action camera and you are hoping to get a lot of accessories for it, do not worry, Akaso has got you covered. Like, there is a metric crap ton of accessories in the box, more than you could ever use. I don't even know how to use most of these, so I won't be showing you a demo of each and every one of them. But trust me, no matter what kind of a setup you are looking to get out of this action camera, you can build one. This thing can take 20 megapixel pictures, and you can also alter the field of view of the pictures from 170 degree, 140 degree and all the way to 110 degree, which is again a classic smartphone field of view. The images on this are not that great. The over sharpening, it's back here and you clearly see it in action, no pun intended. Yeah, the over sharpening does not help this camera out when it comes to photos, but it can be ignored in the videos because you're always moving around. That said, the stabilization on this is not great. Maybe the electronic image stabilization only kicks in at 1080p, but at 4K, which, like I said, I always set this at 4K 24fps, the footage was quite shaky and I had to stabilize it in post. I like the fact that they included a battery charger with this and a spare battery, which is always handy because the battery life on this is not stellar. If you are always on 4K video, you can run this thing dry under an hour. Definitely helps that there is an external charger which takes a micro USB port to charge up both batteries, and it charges up fairly quickly. On a 1 amp charger, it only took me around half an hour max to charge both batteries, which is fantastic. Okay, then I think we can wrap this up. For the price of around 6,000 rupees, you are getting a pretty decent action camera with true 4K 24fps video, Pretty decent photos, a great time-lapse mode and a bunch of other features, a water-resistant case, a whole ton of accessories, a battery charger and a lot more. So should you buy this? Absolutely. If you're someone who's looking into the market for an affordable action camera and you don't want to spend a crap ton of money on GoPros or DJIs, then stuff like this is your best bet. This is definitely not going to be a cinematic grade action camera, but if you just want to get a feel of how to use a tiny camera and in a very effective way, then you can get something like this and start practicing. Once you get better, you can actually invest in a more premium option like the GoPro. Okay, then I'll link this product in the description if you want to check out the latest pricing and availability. I'll also leave a link to my blog, dopetechfever.com, where I will write detailed written articles about stuff like this. And with that, I will see you very soon with the next one. Cheers.